Mike, you bought a PS1 Classic. I have zero interest in that. I've seen that a lot of people have said that it is tanking, that it is not selling very well. I don't look at that as something I would want. Here's my theory. A lot of people say, well, why did the SNES Classic and the NES Classic do so well? And I think my guess is that by the time NES came around, you had a handful of generations, at least one, really, maybe, where 2D gameplay had already been factored and figured out and worked out. So even the first and second generation of NES games were building off the bones of the arcade and the Atari 2600 and things like ColecoVision with multiple screen side-scrolling games like Smurf and whatnot. But PlayStation 1 was the first time ever, for the most part, there were a few PC games, but for the most part, that developers created interactivity real-time in 3D. And so I think, yeah, there's a problem with some frame rate issues, and there's a problem with the best games aren't on the system. There are issues, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles. I get that they could have put out a better, more consumer-facing product, but I think a big problem with the PlayStation Classic is the first generation of 3D real-time games probably simply don't hold up all that well, because it's kind of like going to first-generation 2D games like Space War and going, you expect that to hold up in 2009 fucking teen? And Andre says the SNES and NES Classics succeeded because we had time to miss them. PS1 Classics gave us games we had 10 years ago, but some of those don't hold up as well. I think that's part of it. Although it's been more than 10 years. It was 95, so it's been more than 20 years, basically. But I really think a lot of it comes down to the fact that it's the first time anybody had messed with 3D. I mean, I'm going to give you some insight, man. When I was working on 3D for the first time, coming off of Mickey Mania, the kind of conversations we were having were literally conversations as basic as, I don't understand. You have this island. We're going to build this island in 3D. How do we stop the player from just walking off and doing whatever the fuck he wants? That was the kind of shit people were trying to solve in PS1 days, first generation. So it makes sense that the games that came out that are on PlayStation Classic aren't really very good.